Welcome to Jim Rohn Treasures, where timeless wisdom blends into your modern journey. There are days when you open your eyes with such great hope. Today I have to accomplish something important. But then life pulls you along like a rushing river. Messages, emails, urgent tasks, requests that feel impossible to refuse. By the time night falls, you sit down, shoulders sore, head heavy, heart empty, and you ask yourself all day long, but have I actually moved forward at all? I know that feeling, not because I'm better than you, but because I live just like you, too busy to live a meaningful life. There was a time I worked 6 jobs at once. I ran from morning till late at night, always busy, always rushing, always thinking I was trying my best, until one afternoon I sat silently in a small room, looking back at the past year, and I realized I had run all year, yet I was standing in the exact place where I began. That was the moment that woke me up as if someone had shaken me hard. I wasn't lacking effort. I was lacking direction. I wasn't lacking movement. I was lacking progress. And then I understood a truth I want to share with you today. Being busy can exhaust you, but only progress can change you. If you've ever found yourself spinning like a machine doing so much, yet building so little, if you've ever ended a long day with an emptiness inside, then this video is for you. Because at the end, I'll tell you the moment that completely changed the way I live and may also change your journey. There's something I didn't dare admit until many years later. Most of us aren't busy because life gives us too much to do. We're busy because we're afraid to face the things that matter most. Let me tell you about a very old morning of mine. That day, I woke up before dawn, when the light hadn't yet slipped through the cracks of the door. In that stillness, I could hear the ticking of the clock like a reminder, "Jim, today you have to run again." And it was true. I dove into a long day with 6 different jobs. I ran from place to place, from call to call. Anyone looking in would think I was extraordinarily hardworking. But strangely, the busier I was, the less alive I felt. I remember once sitting in an old warehouse, the smell of paper and dust thick in the air, and suddenly realizing I'd spent the entire day doing things that moved me no closer to any dream. That feeling wasn't like failure. It was like being drained. Have you ever felt that way? You're tired, but you don't know why. You're busy, but you don't know what you're running for. That was when I realized a truth I believe more and more with age. People are busiest during the times they are most lost. I wasn't busy because I was important. I was busy because I was being pulled along. Pulled by urgent tasks, by requests, by fears, by the desire to please others. And then one afternoon I had a conversation that changed my life. I met Mr. Schoaf, the kind of man who can look straight at the truth you've been avoiding. I told him about the 6 jobs I was doing, and I said something I thought would make him proud. "Mr. Schoaf, I'm very busy. I work day and night. I don't stop for a minute." He looked at me, and he smiled. But it wasn't a smile of approval. It was the smile of someone who knows you're running fast in the wrong direction. He said something I will never forget. "Jim, you're busy like a machine, but machines don't become wealthy. People become wealthy when they know what they're supposed to do." I fell silent, because deep down I knew he was right. I wasn't lacking effort. I was lacking clarity. I wasn't lacking movement. I was lacking goals. I wasn't lacking busyness. I was lacking progress. And then he asked me one question that made me stop, as if someone had grabbed me by the shoulders. "Jim, what did you do today that will make your tomorrow different?" I couldn't answer. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't have a true answer. I had let life decide most of my action. I reacted more than I acted. I answered every call, but not the important questions of my own life. I chased urgent things, but didn't make time for the big things. I was busy with life, but not living my life. That is the root of the problem. Busyness gives us the feeling of progress, but in reality, it pulls us away from the life we want. Movement makes us feel like we're doing something, but progress is when we're becoming someone. One evening, after many long days of chasing work, I returned home. The small room was dark. I sat at the old wooden desk, opened a blank sheet of paper, and wrote a question I didn't fully understand until later. "Jim, what did you build today?" Not, "What did you do today?" but "What did you build today?" You see, we often measure a day by the number of tasks we complete. But life isn't measured by tasks. Life is measured by the value we create, by the steps we take, by the real change within ourselves. That day, I wrote down a list of everything I had done over the past 2 weeks. Then I circled the things that actually created progress. The page was full of words, but only 3 things were circled. 3. I had spent my life on things that weren't taking me anywhere. And I knew if I didn't change, this cycle would swallow the rest of my life. From that moment, I understood something profound. Busyness is not a sign of progress. Busyness is a sign of confusion. Progress is a sign of clarity. We rush because we're afraid to stop, because when we stop, we must face the questions we avoid. Why am I doing this? Am I building a future worth having? Or am I just filling the emptiness inside with trivial tasks? And that's why this knowledge exists. To help you see your problem was never lack of effort. The problem is you're pouring your precious energy into seeds that cannot grow. I want to tell you a story that every time I remember it, feels like an invisible hand placed on my shoulder, stopping me in the middle of life's chaos. It began on a day when I thought I was in control of my life, but in reality, life was controlling me to the point of exhaustion. That day, I had to drive to a warehouse far outside the city to check an order. The air was cold, the wind dry, and the dust on my clothes made me feel like I'd aged a few years in just a morning. I walked into the warehouse, where cardboard boxes were stacked in tall rows, and the smell of mold and wood lingered sharply on my tongue. Standing among those boxes stacked to the ceiling, there I was a young man trying to convince himself that he was doing something important. I checked each box, signed papers, answered a few calls. A busy job, yes. But inside, I felt an odd emptiness. After finishing, I walked out to the empty lot behind the warehouse. The sun was setting, and its last rays shone on the drifting dust in the air. I stood there for a long time, listening to the wind scraping against old metal sheets, as if nature were trying to remind me of something I was too busy to hear. An older man working there saw me standing still and came over. "Young man, you look like you've lost something?" I forced a smile. "No, I'm just thinking about work." He looked at me a moment longer, then said something that stopped my heart for a second. "You worked all day, but looked like someone who gained nothing." He turned and walked away, leaving me there feeling as though someone had stripped away the truth I had been hiding from myself. I got in my car and drove back to the city. The roads were crowded, yellow lights glowing, car horns echoing like chaotic rhythms. At a red light, I saw a middle-aged man selling newspapers by the curb. His eyes were tired but not lifeless. In fact, I saw in his eyes something I couldn't find in myself: clarity. He knew what he was doing. But I didn't know what I was building for my own life. That night, after I got home, I sat at the old wooden desk in my room. The small room, the yellow light, the slowly turning fan, everything was silent, as if waiting for me to be honest with myself. I opened my notebook and wrote, "Jim, why are you this busy?" A simple question, but it was like the first shovel breaking into the hard soil of my mind. I wrote again, "Are you busy because you want to move forward or because you're afraid to stop?" And I knew the answer instantly. I was busy so I wouldn't have to face myself. I was busy so I wouldn't have to ask whether I was living the life I wanted. I was busy to avoid the emptiness inside that whispered, "You're doing many things, but you're not becoming anyone." I closed the notebook. I leaned back in my chair. The lamp cast a long shadow on the wall, a small, tired shadow with no shape of a dream. And then a memory pulled me back to a very old story when I'd forgotten I'd lived. When I was a boy, my father used to take me walking through the fields during harvest season. I remember him standing before a newly planted row of soil and saying, "Do you know why people must choose the right seeds in the right season?" I shrugged. "Because if they plant wrong, the plants die?" My father shook his head. "No, Jim, because when you plant wrong, no matter how much you take care of it, it's useless." That sentence hit me many years later. I had planted wrong. I planted in work that didn't nourish my future. I planted in responsibilities that weren't mine. I planted in urgent tasks, not important ones. And I watered them daily with busyness, expecting a harvest that would never come. In that small, dark room that night, I sat for a long time. I looked back at the years I had run and run and run, as if stopping would mean being left behind. But the truth was, no one was leaving me behind. I was leaving myself behind. I wasn't afraid of being busy. I was afraid of silence. Because in silence, I had to face the real question. Whose dream am I living? And in that moment, I realized what truly changed me. Not exhaustion, not work, not failure, but understanding that if I didn't redirect my life, busyness would turn me into a shadow always running, never arriving. That is the story of life I believe everyone eventually experiences. A moment when you stop in the middle of the current, look around, and suddenly see how far you are from your dream, even though your feet have never stopped moving. And if you are in that moment, then you are standing before the doorway of awakening. Something a person may only encounter a few times in a lifetime. There is something that took me many years to understand, and when I finally did, I felt regret for all the years before. It is this: being busy is not the problem. The problem is why we are busy. Most people think they are busy because life forces them to be. But no, we are busy for 3 reasons that go much deeper, and I had to face each one of them. Like peeling the layers of an onion, it stings your eyes, but it's necessary. Let me tell you about the first point I realized one evening as I sat on the porch, watching the streetlights reflect on the damp pavement. That day, I asked myself a question that seemed simple. Jim, if you stopped for just one day, what would happen? I expected a complicated answer. Losing my job, losing opportunities, being overtaken by others. But no, the real answer made me uneasy. If you stop, you will have to see yourself. And that is the first truth I want you to face. People stay busy because they are afraid of silence. Because in silence, we can clearly hear the small inner voice, the voice we try to drown out with to-do lists, packed schedules, and nameless urgent tasks. I used to be terribly afraid of silence. Silence made me feel uncertain. Silence made me feel I was living a life that didn't look like the life I wanted. Silence made me feel empty. And instead of healing that emptiness, I chose to fill it with busyness. But then I realized this: busyness cannot fill the emptiness inside it, only keeps us from seeing it. And the less we see it, the bigger it grows. That is the first insight. It is not busyness that kills dreams, it is inner avoidance. The second insight came when I looked back at the successful people I had met. I saw one thing in common. They never chase everything. They choose. They let go. They are willing to release. They dare to say no to 99 things to protect the one thing that truly matters. I used to think they are successful because they have more time, but that's not the truth. They are successful because they don't waste time on things that don't move them forward. The day I realized that, I was sitting in a small roadside cafe. Next to me, 2 men were talking. One of them was describing his workday, meetings, documents, emails, and miscellaneous issues. He talked for a long time, but I didn't hear a single sentence related to his life goals. The other man said only one sentence. Sounds like a lot of work, but is there anything there that truly builds your future? I glanced over and suddenly shivered, because that question was for me too. And that is the second insight. We don't lack time. We lack priority. We don't lack 24 hours. We lack the courage to choose what matters and let go of what only drains our energy. And as for the third insight, it came from a very ordinary scene. One afternoon, I walked past a large plot of land. There was a man digging a hole. He was digging diligently, without stopping. At a glance, anyone would think he was doing a great job. But then I looked more closely and realized he was digging in the wrong direction. The landowner was standing at a distance, clearly saying the hole had to be on the right side, but the man was so absorbed in digging that he didn't hear him at all. When the landowner walked over and said, "You're digging in the wrong place," the man looked at the big hole in front of him, sighed, and said something I never forgot. "But I've already do so much." That sentence left me speechless. Many of us are the same. We know we're on the wrong path, but we hesitate to turn back because we've gone too far. We stay in jobs that don't fit us. We stay in bad habits. We keep doing meaningless things simply because we've done them for too long. That is the third insight. Our attachment to what is familiar is stronger than our desire to change, even when we know it's not taking us anywhere. And it was at this point that I truly understood. Busyness is not a problem of time. Busyness is a problem of awareness. When awareness changes, direction changes. When direction changes, busyness naturally turns into progress. When progress appears, we don't need to run anymore. We just need to step correctly. You see, life does not reward the one who runs the fastest. Life rewards the one who runs in the right direction. And the next part of this journey, the part I am about to lead you into, will not only talk about why you need to change, but also how to turn busyness into real strength. When those insights began to sink in, the first thing I realized was this: understanding alone is not enough. You may understand why you're busy, you may realize you are lost, but if you don't turn that into real action, you will return to the same old cycle. And that cycle has a very subtle trick. It gives you the feeling that I did a lot today, while in reality, you haven't built anything. I know this very well, because I fell into that exact trap. Until one day I forced myself to apply what I had understood, not to make my life grow instantly, but to see whether I could build one real step of progress each day. And to make it clearer to you, I want to tell you a story that happened on a very ordinary morning, but it changed the way I worked for years afterward. That day I sat in a small room at 5 a.m. There were no cars, no voices, only the first light of the new day spilling through the window frame. I placed a blank sheet of paper in front of me and wrote this line: "Today, Jim, if you could choose only one most important thing, what would it be?" I stared at that question for a long time, because for many years I had never asked myself that. I just did whatever came first. Whatever was urgent, I did. Whatever someone asked for, I handled. Whatever made me feel busy, I gave priority to. But when I had to choose one most important thing, I realized I had no real priorities at all. And that was when I forced myself to turn my whole way of living upside down. I tried to imagine, if I kept doing everything the same way, where would I be in 5 years? The answer made me sink, exactly where I am standing now. And in that very moment, I understood the first application of awareness. Every day, life only needs you to do one thing right, but it has to be the thing that moves you forward. I wrote down the most important thing for that morning. Not the 6 jobs I was working, not what my clients demanded, not the urgent, but empty things. I chose one thing, the only thing that had the power to change my future. And after choosing, I felt an unusual lightness, as if for the first time in my life I truly knew what I had to live for today. Then I applied that awareness to another area of my life: presence. I remember evenings coming home with no energy left. I sat at the dinner table, but my mind was still stuck in unfinished work. I heard someone ask me something, but I didn't really listen. I lived like a shadow. My body was there, but my mind was somewhere else. One evening, I saw the fatigue in my loved ones' eyes, not because they were angry with me, but because they had grown used to the feeling that I was always busy. That day, I understood something very practical. If you are not present in the important moments of your life, you will lose things that even success can never make up for. And from that day on, I made a small change. When I stepped into the house, I put my phone down. I left the noise at the door. I allowed myself to be truly present with the person in front of me. Those small things which seemed unrelated to productivity were exactly what helped me start living with progress. Because progress doesn't lie only in work. It lies in the quality of each moment we are present. Another time, I applied awareness to decision-making. I realized that most of the biggest mistakes in my life didn't come from a lack of intelligence, but from haste. Hastily nodding yes, hastily agreeing, hastily jumping into an unclear opportunity just because I was afraid of standing still. And then one day, faced with an important decision, I stopped. I didn't react immediately. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and asked myself, does this move me forward, or does it just fill a void? That question, just that one, helped me avoid many detours in life. I realized that before each action, if you just pause for 10 seconds and ask the right question, you are already ahead of 90% of people out there. The final practical application I want you to understand came from an afternoon when I watched a farmer watering his plants. He held a small watering can, walking slowly to each plant, not in a rush, not pouring carelessly, not watering the plants that didn't need water. He said to me, if you want the plant to grow properly, you have to water the right root. Watering everywhere is just a waste of water. And I realized, in life, we are the same. We don't need to water everywhere. We only need to water the right roots. Where are the roots of your future? Not in the list of 18 tasks you must finish before 5 p.m. Not in the meetings that drain you. Not in the emails you answer just to feel like you're doing something. The roots lie in 3 things: what you truly want, what you truly choose, and what you truly do each day. And when you water the right roots, your life will change direction. Not in a day, not in a week, but little by little, drop by drop. And one day, you will look back and realize, I'm no longer busy just to live. I'm living to move forward. There is a moment in my life that always comes back to me when I think about busyness and progress. It happened on a very peaceful afternoon, so peaceful that it scared me. I was sitting under a big tree right behind the house. Sunlight slipped through the gaps in the leaves, creating little spots of light dancing on the ground. The wind blew gently, and I heard the rustling leaves like a very old conversation of nature. In that stillness, for the first time, I asked myself a question I had avoided for many years. Jim, what principles of life are you living by? The question sounded philosophical, but it led me to a very down-to-earth truth. People don't fail because they do things wrong. People fail because they live by rules that are not strong enough to take them where they want to go. And that is what I want to open up with you in this moment, the principles I learned not from books, but from the very bumps and bruises of life. The first thing I realized is this: life does not reward speed, life rewards alignment. When you are busy, you may be able to run very fast. But if you run in the wrong direction, speed only takes you farther away from the life you truly want. Watching someone run nonstop says nothing about their future. Watching someone stop to choose the right direction, that says everything. I remember once walking past a construction site. A group of people were pushing very heavy carts of sand. They were moving constantly, sweat streaming down, everyone looking as if they were working extremely hard. But I suddenly realized they were all pushing in the wrong direction. An old mason standing nearby looked on and said, "Keep pushing if you want, but if it's the wrong way, a whole day will only leave you exhausted." That sentence sounded simple, but it held a philosophy I still find true to this day. Strength does not lie in your legs, it lies in your direction. The second principle came from what I saw in nature, where all the great lessons are quiet, yet razor sharp. Many years ago, I watched a young tree being bent back and forth by the wind. I thought it would snap, but it stayed standing, though thin and fragile. Why? Because deep in the soil, tiny roots were holding on bit by bit. Roots are not noisy. They don't show off. No one sees them. But it is the roots that decide whether the tree can stand. And then I understood, people are the same. We don't move forward because of the loud things we do, but because of the quiet things we do every day. A small promise we keep. A small habit we persevere in. A brief moment of awareness before we react. An hour of deep focus we give to what matters. Those are things no one sees, but they are the roots. And if you want your life to change, you must tend to the roots, not the leaves. The part of you that can be seen does not determine you. The part no one sees, that determines everything. The third principle appeared when I observed something very common. A person's ability does not determine their future, the standards they choose do. I once met many people who were smarter than me, more talented than me, and had better starting points than I did. But they didn't go far. Not because they lacked ability, but because they chose standards that were too low. They allowed themselves to be busy instead of making progress. They allowed themselves to react instead of take initiative. They allowed days to pass without asking, "What did I build today?" I once thought success came from doing more. But the more I experienced, the more I understood. Success comes from living with higher standards. The standard that you do not let a day pass meaninglessly. The standard that you do not let your schedule decide your life. The standard that you only plant seeds worthy of the harvest you desire. The last principle I want to share with you, what I learned from the way life works, is this. Life gives you exactly what you dare to demand of yourself. Not what you say you want, not what you hope for, but what you truly dare to commit to. If you only commit to being busy, life will give you plenty to be busy with. If you commit to progress, life will open opportunities that require you to grow. If you commit to living in the right direction, everything will gradually rearrange itself to support you. I have seen this too many times in my life. When you change the way you live, life changes the way it treats you. Not because of magic, but because you begin to live like someone who knows where they are going. And when you know where you are going, every step has value. Every day has meaning. Every moment becomes part of a larger journey. Then you are no longer busy just to exist. You are busy to become the person you know deep in your soul. You can be. There are moments in each person's journey when life gently places a hand on your shoulder and says, "Pause for a moment. We need to talk." And I believe if you've walked with me all the way here, this might be that moment for you. Not everyone hears that call. Many are too busy to stop, too busy to think, too busy to look at where they are going. They live the way I once lived, running in circles while thinking they are moving forward. But if you were sitting here listening, opening your heart, and looking back at yourself, then you have already stepped out of that circle, even if it's just one small step. But sometimes one small step is all we need to change the course of a life. I want you to remember this. No one progresses because they change their whole life. In one night they progress because on some night they see themselves more clearly. I remember one evening, a long time ago, I stood in front of the mirror and saw a young man with tired eyes, shoulders always tense as if carrying the whole world on his back. I asked the man in the mirror, "Whose life are you living?" The answer didn't come right away. It appeared quietly, like a breath. I am living the life I think I'm supposed to live, not the life I want to live. And within that honesty, something was born, something I want to pass on to you. The power to choose. You can choose to keep running, or you can choose to stop, turn yourself just a little, and step in another direction, the direction of awareness, of real progress, of the life you deserve. I want you to understand this very clearly. No one is born to live a life controlled by noise, by urgency, by the whirlwind of pace. We are born to build, not to spin in circles. Born to plant a garden, not to keep watering the same barren patch of land. Born to sow the seeds of true dreams, not to cultivate things that don't belong to us. Born to act according to our values, not to react according to other people's demands. And if you're wondering, starting tomorrow, how do I begin? I will not give you a long list. I just want you to do what I once did, the thing that saved me from a busy yet hollow life. One blank sheet of paper, one honest question, one single choice. Write this down. Tomorrow, what is the most important thing I must do? The thing that will move me forward. Just one thing. But it must be the thing that nudges your life forward. If you do that for 7 days, you will feel different. If you do that for 30 days, you will see life differently. And if you do that for 1 year, you will no longer be the person watching this video now. You will have become the version of yourself you've been searching for all this time. Before we finish, I want you to remember an image. A farmer who every morning waters only the roots of the plants that will grow into the harvest. Not rushing, not watering everywhere, not letting busyness deceive him. He knows if he waters the right roots every day, the future will open by itself. Your life is the same. You don't need to do more. You just need to live more rightly. You don't need to run faster. You just need to run in the right direction. And when you live like that a little more each day, you will see yourself making progress. You will feel lighter. You will feel yourself growing from within. And the strange thing is this, the world will begin to make way for the person who knows where they are going. Because as I once said, success is not something you chase, it is something you attract by the person you become. If you have come to the end of this journey, if some part of it has touched you, if there was a moment in this video that made you pause in silence for a while, leave in the comments, not for me, but for you to mark one thing: I have awakened and I am beginning again. And if you want to keep journeying with these deep, experience-filled lessons, like this video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Not to chase content, but so that each day you get a gentle reminder you deserve to live a meaningful life. Your journey from today onward has truly begun.